You're listening to The Featured Voice, a podcast summer series on the Audio Flow with Jacques.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jacques, and welcome to episode 9 of The Featured Voice. I've had such an awesome time with this series. I think right now this might be my favorite series show that I've done so far. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. No, I'm just kidding. I think what makes this so fun is that I just started listening to audiobooks last year. And since then, I have grown to sort of be an Audible or audiobook addict, and finally got my Audible library over 300. And so to me, that's a lot. But I have a lot of friends who have books in the thousands. I'm not quite there yet, but maybe at some point I'll get there. But I'm happy with my 300 plus audiobooks. And in that, I've had chances to network and collaborate with some great people in the industry. So the Featured Voice is my baby, and I love every part of the Featured Voice where I can help narrators reach new audiences, new fans, connect with authors about upcoming projects, and whatever I can do to promote narrators and get to know them. And that's the fun part about the Featured Voice too, is that we get to know a little bit about them. So fun facts are my second favorite part about the Featured Voice. This week, we have an opportunity to meet another person that I met through Audiobook Lovers, which is a Facebook group that was started by Tom Jordan, who was the featured voice in week 1, and also Barbara Goss. And so they have this nice little network of authors, narrators, and listeners there. And pretty much everybody that's been on the show is somebody that I met through that group. So thank you, Barbara and Tom, for creating that group and giving me an avenue to meet such great people. And this week's featured voice person I also met in that group. She eagerly jumped on board to participate, and she's been such a help with sharing out the post of the previous featured voice guest on Twitter and Facebook. And I love that. I love that she's promoting the series and her fellow narrators as well. So this week it's her turn. So I am so happy to have on the show this week Caroline McLaughlin. Hi, Caroline. How are you?
Good. How are you? Nice to be here.
I am so excited. I am doing well, thank you, with the exception of I've come down with the case of podcast voice, which I should just go ahead and become a narrator now since I've been doing this a while. And yeah, I've got the good, sexy voice going. So what do you think?
You and me both. I'm a little nasally today. I've got the allergy voice going. So we're good.
We are good. And that could make us some money, you know. We should go ahead and take advantage of the nasally frog in the voice, allergy voice.
Duet narration.
That's right. That would be so much fun.
Right now.
Well, welcome to the Featured Voice. You know, we are almost done with this series, and it's just been a lot of fun, especially for me, because I get to meet people like you and learn more about your work and your journey, and things like that. And I'm glad that you pronounced your last name for me, because, you know, people like me, we are very phonetics, and we look at, you know, okay, yeah, that sound makes an F sound, and then you're like, nope, it's McLaughlin. And so, yes, Caroline McLaughlin.
And believe it or not, it's easier than my maiden name, which is Huang, spelled Huang. So that was easier way to go.
Yeah, so we're just going to stick with Caroline, and we'll just... Well, again, thank you so much for being a part of the Featured Voice. It's so wonderful to finally meet you. We've had a couple back and forth tweets and a couple things on Facebook. So it's now your turn. I feel like you've been waiting in line for your turn to be on the Featured Voice, which I love. And just very, very supportive of sharing out the things that you've seen. So thank you for that, for all that you've been doing so far.
Well, thank you for doing this and highlighting narrators. That's something that we love.
Well, good, good. So let's talk a little bit about Caroline and, what's your journey been like to this point to get to this career in narrating books? Where did you start and what kind of motivated you to move in this direction?
Well, this is actually my first career, but I was in it just for a little while, and I'm dating myself. But I used to do voice work and on-camera work back in the late 80s.
Okay.
And I did that for a while. And as a matter of fact, this is a fun fact because I've never said this before, but I used to be one of the DC lottery girls in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
when I was to pick the balls. Yeah. So that's actually how I started. I was their on-air, one of their on-air hosts, and I started doing picking the lottery balls, and then I went into commercials and voiceovers. And I did that for a long time, and then I stopped and had my son. And once he was raised and went off to college, I was kind of left with like, wow, now what do I do? Mm-hmm. And it was my husband that suggested, why don't you go back into voiceovers? And I thought about it, and I was kind of going in that direction, but I remembered that I always loved listening to audiobooks. And I think any narrator that narrates, their first love is listening to audiobooks. Mm-hmm. I just found it to be so interesting. And once you're sitting there listening to it, it's such an intimate experience. Yeah. So I kind of thought, well, why don't I investigate and see about doing that? So what I did was I volunteered for Learning Ally, and they are reading for the disabled and the blind. And I did that for about 8 months to see if I had any talent to do it, if I could do it. And I found I loved it, and I went and did that for 8 months. And then I kind of did some research, found ACX, started with ACX. Mm-hmm. Big fan of ACX. I know a lot of people start there. And last couple of years, I've been doing work more and more for publishers and independent rights holders.
I like your fun fact because I would love to see like a video of you pulling the lottery balls. And how long did you do that?
A long time. Back in, I think I started, I want to say 1984, 85. Mm-hmm. And that's when I first joined the union. So I've been with the union for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think I stopped right after my son was born back in 1993. Okay. So I think I did it for 9 years.
You have any? Okay. So back then we had VHS, everybody. We had tapes. So there was no DVR or anything. So do you have tapes of that? Not that I would be able to see it because I don't have a VCR.
I have a picture. I have a picture. And the thing is that they taped this because it was taped. It wasn't necessarily live. Mm-hmm. So I keep thinking for 9 years, I'll get a tape of this. I'll get a tape of this for 9 years. And I didn't get a tape of it. I don't even know if they have them anymore. I'll have to call down there and see if they've kept any of it. But we used to go to television stations and pull the numbers.
That is so neat. Oh, I love it.
I've never told anybody this.
Well, yeah, I'm so glad that you shared it with us first here. Everybody, she shared it here first on the Featured Voice, a part of the audio flow. So look at that. You get an inside scoop on Caroline's background. And now I really want to go and Google you and put your name in and see if I can find some old pictures. But if you send us a picture and you want, we'll share it out one day during your Featured Voice. So that would be fun.
I'll go back and look. I think I have a shot somewhere, and I'll text it to you, or I'll send it to you by email.
Okay, that sounds really fun. Thank you. Okay, so you decided that you would go into trying out audiobooks. You did a little investigation and things like that, and started with ACX. So a lot of people really, really, really enjoy ACX because it still allows the author to have some control over the work and things like that. So do you remember your first audition for ACX, what book it was?
Well, I have fun stories about that too. I went and got some demos done. I met with a local actress here, and I worked with her for a little while, and we did my demos, and I put them up on ACX. And I got an email from a rights holder a few weeks later who wanted me to do a book, and it was called Mei Li of China. Well, I'm Chinese. She was looking for someone that's able to do the pronunciations correctly. So that was my first book, and I remember it was a short book. It was about 4 hours, but it took me over a month to do, which at that time it was kind of daunting. Now it takes me maybe less than a week to do, but at that time it took me a month to do. It was very daunting. And after I got it done, because I not only recorded it, I edited it too.
Oh, okay.
So I had to learn everything round up before I started this. So I was really proud of that. I did it, and it passed inspection with ACX. I was really happy. And so then I thought, wow, maybe there's something here. And then the second book I got was from a publisher, and it was 18 hours long. I know. I was petrified. I didn't know what I thought. Oh my gosh, should I, shouldn't I? I thought, they said, you don't have to do any of the editing. We'll do it for you. And so the second book I did was called I Ching, and that was 18 hours long. And it's still one of my bestsellers.
Wow. Well, it's interesting because the whole production editing process is not fun. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, like when you did the first book where you were learning everything, were you the kind of person that says, oh, this is a great skill to learn, and I've done the narration part and now I'm learning the technical part, this is great. So I see you shaking your head, so obviously you enjoyed that part.
well, no, I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I think the thing that as a narrator you do need to know how to do. I'm glad I do it. I'm glad I learned how to do it because I can do my own auditions, edit it, and upload it. My editing for the books that I do now, when they're with publishers, they go ahead and do the editing, but I outsource my editing if I'm doing something for ACX. So I don't edit much these days, but I am glad that I have that skill and I know how to do it. I think it's something that you kind of need to know something about if you want to go into this particular industry.
Well, not only that, as a podcaster, I've had to dibble dabble in editing. And let me just tell you, you can't see my face right now, but my face is scrunched up because I'm like, this is not what I want to do. I just want to be the talent. I want to be behind the mic and the headset, and I want to just give it to somebody else. And so now I'm able to do that. But in the beginning, I was on Audacity and I was changing stuff. And so, yeah, it's good. It's good experience to know that if you have to, that you can do it, but you don't necessarily have to. That's even better. I'm sticking with that.
You just want to hit that button to record and just go.
Yes.
And not worry about all else. And then afterwards, upload it and send it to whoever's going to edit it. It makes it much easier and less stressful, I think.
Yes, and I can attest to that because that's exactly what I do. I hit stop and I hit export and I put it in Dropbox and say, here you go. It's on the log. Have a good day. Exactly. All right. So I know I mentioned a little bit earlier about your booth and everybody. I get visual. I love when I get a chance to chat with people and also see their surroundings. And unfortunately, I had to stick Caroline back in her box or in her booth, in her studio, just because, I asked her to go in there because I want to I'm nosy. I want to see what's in there. So you spend a lot of time in there. Can you describe for us your home away from home in your studio?
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in here. It's my second home, actually. It's a 4x6 whisper booth. And I don't have a lot of lighting in it. I have a small one here. You can kind of see it because I have a huge window to the right, which lets light in. But when I'm recording, I don't want a lot of light necessarily because I record off of an iPad or I read off of an iPad. And I just kind of like the mood. At some point, I will get more lighting in here, but right now It's just a 4x6 booth. I have a desk. I have a Neumann mic attached to a boom arm, and my laptop is outside of my booth because when it gets hot, you can hear the fan.
Okay.
So attached. So I have a wireless keyboard in here. I have a trackpad. I hit record. I go, and through the window, I can see my laptop, and I can see it recording. And I use Studio One, so if I need to stop, I do punch and roll, and I can still see it. But I just actually changed my setup and put a desk in here, which I love. I don't know why I didn't have a desk to begin with, but I love it.
You said a lot of stuff in there. I don't know what punch and roll. I don't know. Is that some type of software? Or what does that mean?
Well, a lot of narrators, you do punch and roll. And basically, there's certain audio workstations. Like I use Studio One. And what happens is, say I'm talking to you, and I'm talking, and I flub up a line. Well, I can hit stop, and I can hit an icon that's the punch and roll, and it'll go back 4 seconds. I'll hear 4 seconds, and then it'll stop exactly where I messed up, and I can just keep recording.
Oh, I know that. That sounds wonderful.
It's great. I started out with Twisted Wave, and I love Twisted Wave. I still edit off of Twisted Wave, but it didn't have punch and roll. So I got Studio One. It has changed my life.
Oh, gosh, you're changing my life right now with all of the software.
Yeah. I don't know if you know Don Barnes. He, I think he's one of the administrators for ACX on Facebook, ACX Narrators and Producers. But he has another Facebook group called Studio One Narrator and Podcasters that you should check into.
As I'm writing notes, see, everybody, this podcast is the featured voice, but I learn things every day too. And so I'm just a sponge taking in more information. So I thank you, Caroline. I am definitely going to be on Facebook searching for that group and jumping on board there.
Yeah, it's so much information. And Don is wonderful. He helped me set up my whole Studio One. I just haven't gone back since. I just love it.
Okay, well, I love that you shared that with us. So I like your studio, and so I always ask this question. Well, there's a couple questions. First, there's the whole, what do narrators wear in the booth? Because, they try to stay cool, because like you mentioned about your laptop, and you don't keep it in there because the fan will run and it'll be too loud. So how do you keep yourself, cool or warm? What's your temperature control like in there?
Gosh. Well, as the summer months go on, the less clothes I seem to wear because it just gets hot. I do have a ventilation system that I can run, but it does make noise. So I don't often run it. And what I'll do is I'll be in a booth a good hour at a time before I get up and take a break. And by that time, I'm ready. And I just keep the door open for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then I just kind of take a break and cool down. My house is air conditioned, so then I get a little break, cool down, come back up, and start over again. But the clothes becoming almost optional at this point.
Oh, everybody, if you want to, one of the perks of being a narrator for audiobooks is that clothes are optional. And you can work from home. So both of those together just makes for a perfect job, I think.
Yeah, I won't lie. There have been days that I've recorded in my pajamas and come out of the booth and it's like 2:00. So.
Yes. I mean, hey, I record in my pajamas too, so I don't feel bad. And so you just got to do what you have to do. And so you get to take a couple breaks. And what's usually, mention that you're in the booth a lot of time. What's pretty much, your average length of time that you're spending in there?
Without taking a break or with breaks?
Without the break.
Well, without the breaks, the longest I've gone is probably 2 hours. Okay. Where I'm so engrossed in what I'm doing that I'm just going and going. Because once you kind of get into that rhythm or the flow, you hate to kind of get up and break it up.
Right.
So for me anyway, sometimes it's hard to get back into it. So I'd rather finish off a scene or a chapter before I get up and take a break.
Yeah, it's basically you have to get to a good stopping point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because then you'll have to come back and get back into that same mood. But now you've walked around and had a couple glasses of water and stretched, and then you're like, okay, now I have to go back and get into that frame of mind. I could see that being an issue.
Well, the worst is when you're doing an intense scene, and let's say it's either a love scene or a battle scene or something that's very emotional. The worst for me would be to be in the middle of that and say, okay, I'm taking a break. Get up, drink some water, walk around, use the bathroom, and then check emails. That's the worst, because then you come back and I am totally out of it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that email that I just got, or, my dog's looking at me like, when are we going out? So I have to finish off that mood or that passage or whatever scene I'm doing before I take a break.
Yes, I understand the whole dog looking at you like, when are we going out? Because Dallas does that, and he's like, but I thought we were going for a walk. And I'm like, well, 10 more minutes, Dallas. And it's weird. They come back 10 minutes later, and it's like, but you said 10 minutes.
Well, I know my dog actually is in this room where my booth is at, and he stays on the couch or he lays around in this room and he listens to me narrate. Oh. And so he can tell when I'm finished, because as soon as I'm done and I'm getting up, he's wagging his tail going, yeah, let's go.
I love it. I love it. What kind of dog do you have?
Cooper. He's a beagle, and I post about him sometimes. He's such a good dog. He's just my studio dog. He's in here all the time with me. Not in the booth, but in the studio.
Oh, I love it. And dogs are such comforting creatures and great companions. And it's always nice when they are excited that you're going to spend time with them. Okay, we let mom work, but now she's done, and I know I'm going to get some attention. And Cooper, I love dogs. So I will be going on your page now, and I will be sending Cooper some shout outs. So don't feel bad if you don't get as many shout outs as the dog.
Cooper's great. I actually posted a picture of him on my, I forget, it was Twitter or Facebook, but he was sleeping in this chair that we have. And I'm working like a demon to get this book done. And I look over and he's just in this chair. And he's just like not, sleeping. And I just like, oh my gosh, dog's life.
Yes, they have it made, I tell you. So, all right. So, let's dive into audiobooks. So there's a lot of genres just in general, and sub genres, and just there's every type of book you can think of that's out there. So, which genres are you working in currently, and then which ones have you not worked in yet that you're looking forward to perhaps picking up those projects in the future?
I do a wide variety of genres. I do romance, I do a lot of nonfiction books. I do mystery thrillers. I do sci-fi, fantasy. The one I'm working on right now is 15 hours, and it's historical fantasy, and it's great. I'll post about it when it's through. I'm working with a publisher, so I'm not sure how much I can say, but I will say that it is one of the best books that I've ever done. I totally love it.
Historical fantasy, if we could relate that to a movie, because, can you relate that to a movie?
Think kind of Game of Thrones.
That's what I figured as much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So kind of like that. So I'm working on that. The next book I'm working on is a nonfiction book. It's a history book. And then the book after that is the mystery thriller Break the Night. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoy doing mystery thrillers. I'd like to get into a few more of those. They sell very well, and they're very interesting to narrate. So that's something that I'd like to explore more of.
I like that pretty much everybody that I've spoken with on this particular series is looking to do more mysteries. And and I don't know if there's just been an increase in people writing mysteries or an increase of people wanting to put those mystery books on audio, which could be it too. I don't know.
For me, I love reading them. It's what I read. And it's the whole finding out and exploring what's going on and the unraveling of the mystery that makes narration fun for me. So so Harlan Coben, if you're out there, I would love to narrate one of your books. He's one of my favorites.
Yes, you go ahead, girl. You own that. And you tell them that you are here and ready to narrate those books. That's right.
Yeah.
But what I also find interesting and what I love is that narrators, of course, you guys are readers too, and you listen to audiobooks and you have your favorites. And I can tell, and I won't say you treat any of your other works different, but the excitement that you have when you say, oh, I'm working on this mystery thriller or something like that, because that's what you enjoy reading. But also I just saw how excited you were about the history fantasy book. So are you a Game of Thrones watcher?
God, I am such a fan.
Okay,
I've been watching since the beginning.
Yes.
I can't tell you how much I love it. I mean, winter is here. That's all I have to say.
I know. So this season, all however many seasons it's been, 8, a lot. And everybody's like, winter's coming. Yeah. And then I was like, when the heck is Game of Thrones coming back on? And we know everybody that it started last week. And so we're like, oh no, winter is here. And we got the Mother of Dragons and we got all of these people. And I'll tell you, I watched the show. I've been watching it since Ned's head rolled, and it blew my mind, right? Because you're like, and we're like, I thought he was a main character, and it's like nobody can escape. It doesn't matter if your name is first on the credits. It just doesn't matter. You could possibly die.
Right, and then even after that, all the other seasons that's followed, people have died.
Yes.
And you're just kind of, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I'm sitting there and I was like, oh man, they killed off such and such. Oh man, that person's not on there. And oh man, but it's fantasy. You can always bring them back. And so yeah, it's just been, Game of Thrones is great. And so that's why I said I saw how excited you were about this book that you're working on, and I figure you must be really into high fantasy, because you can't, you can just tell when somebody's really, really, really excited about something and into something. And plus, I can see your face. So for those of you that don't know, I'm looking at her on the screen. I'm kind of cheating. I'm
grinning ear to ear. As a matter of fact, my husband. My son and I started watching it, and so my husband always just caught, an episode here or there, didn't really watch it. Well, lately he's gotten into it, and he's gone back and he's watching from episode 1, from very first episode, and he's on season, I think, 3 now. So I've been actually watching this again, and I'm kind of thinking, oh, I missed that, I missed that, and we're putting everything together, and just it's the creation, it's the imagination. Yeah. That's what gets,
Yeah, I should probably start over, because there was this quiz on BuzzFeed, and all the questions I failed, and it was like, you must not watch Game of Thrones. But I said, the questions are from season 1. Do you know how long ago that was? I don't even know this person's name. What was their name? And I'm one of those persons. I watch the show, but if you ask me about somebody that's from, I won't say King's Landing, but from somewhere else, and you show me a picture, I'm like, I don't know who they were, but I can tell you what they did. I don't know their names. I don't know. I know Jon Snow.
Yeah. Oh, Jon Snow. We all know Jon Snow.
We all know Jon Snow.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's all we need to say on that. We'll just say everybody knows Jon Snow, and Caroline smiling and nodding, and I'm smiling and nodding. She can't see me, but yeah, we all know Jon Snow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so you mentioned what works you are currently working on, and Break the Night by Ann Stewart is a current book, and we want to go ahead and play a sample so everyone can kind of hear about this book. So when it's ready to release, you can be sure to head on over to Audible to pick up our copy. So we're going to take a listen. Here is Break the Night, and it is narrated by Caroline McLaughlin. I'm going to get that right. Caroline McLaughlin. All right, here we go.
The Venice Ripper, they were calling him. Fortunately, the newspapers didn't know about the masks or about the truly horrifying details of the medically accurate butchery of the prostitute victims. Lizzie was still anonymous enough, an innocent pulled into the horror by her art and by a madman's random appreciation. When the police had traced the second mask to her, she'd stopped working for a while, too horrified by the piece of evidence she'd identified. The blood-soaked papier-mâché had once been a Cupid doll face, and the knowledge that the killer had used her masks during his bizarre killing spree made her feel sick inside, like an unwilling accessory to the madman. But stopping her work, hiding in her apartment when she wasn't making ends meet as a waitress at the Pink Pelican Cafe, did no good at all. She'd made a lot of masks in the 2 years she'd been in the Los Angeles area, and sold a fair number of them, and the killer seemed to have an inexhaustible supply. She sat back, staring at the mask beneath her fingers. The red streaks looked like blood. The mouth was open in a silent, hideous scream. And somewhere a killer waited, one of her masks in his blood-soaked hands. Kate Bush stopped singing. The news came on, a muffled voice, one she didn't want to hear. The Ripper had claimed another victim, the body found dumped behind a building near the beach. And Lizzie brought her fists down on the mask, crushing it beneath her strong hands.
I like it. So it's kind of got a Jack the Ripper feel to it. Is that what we can take away from that sample?
Yes. This there's a serial killer in Los Angeles, and he mimics the Jack the Ripper murders. And whenever he does a murder, there's one. She's an artist. The protagonist's main character is an artist. He always leaves one of her masks at the murder. So she's kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of creepy, and I don't think she likes that. According to the
she doesn't. And then she gets hooked up with a reporter who's obsessed with the story. And there's kind of a interesting little element to him. We're not quite sure where he's coming from, and not quite sure what he's all about, and almost a little suspect that maybe he's the one that's doing the murders. We just don't know.
Oh, we don't know. So if you want to know more, you're currently working on it, so it's not out yet. Do we have a projection?
Yeah, I will probably begin narrating this at the end of August. I'm hoping it'll be out probably around October the 1st.
Okay. Oh, good. Something nice and a little mysterious for you for October and all you people who like to celebrate, Halloween and stuff like that. But yeah. I can't wait because I picked up on her attitude, and how dare he leave my mask? I mean, now people gonna associate her mask with this killer. That would be my first thought.
Yeah, and then the fact that how does he know about her and her masks?
Exactly.
Does he see her? Is he stalking her? We don't know.
We don't know. And so, have you already read the book?
Oh yeah. I read all the books that I narrate, even the nonfictions, so that I know kind of where it's going. And especially with mystery thrillers, you really have to kind of understand the arc of the characters and the story, and who actually did it, and so you're kind of guiding the readers or the listeners through this story. You need to know where you're going.
Yeah, and I would think it would be, and I wouldn't say hard, but you've read the book, you know who done it, and so being able to portray the character and not give any hints about their attitudes at the end? I mean, how do you go about doing that? Because me, I'd get on there and I'd already have an attitude because I already know who did it. And so you'd probably hear in my voice that I'm telling you, it's this guy over here. And then nobody will want to listen to me do it. So how do you make sure you stay within the right lines of the character as it goes along?
Well, when I'm reading the book for the first time, I'm just like anybody else. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of a blank slate. When I'm narrating, I am guiding the listener through this maze. Mm-hmm. And I have to be very conscious of how I portray things because I don't want to give it away. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, the text will lead you or the reader or the listener to where they need to go. Mm-hmm. And all I try to do is just be true to the text and read and perform what's in front of me so that I can just guide the listener. I can't kind of my own opinion like, oh, there's James, I don't know about him. You can't any of that away.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good skill set. And so, I know that you've been in the industry for a while. Have you had any experience with acting per se before switching over and doing audiobooks?
No, not really. I really didn't have that much acting coming into this. So what I have done is I've sought out coaches who can help me with this. And I've had some great meetings and sessions with wonderful coaches who've been able to help me, especially in this area of acting and performing in audiobooks, which is very different from, I think, performing on screen.
Yeah, and I think for me as a listener, I think it would be a lot more difficult for audiobook narrators or persons who do voiceovers because you have so much character and emotion that you have to use with your voice, and we can't see you. So if I'm looking at you, it's different. I can read your facial expression and things like that. But when I'm listening, I have to listen and I have to feel that emotion come through. So right now I can look at your face and I can see you happy, but I can also listen and I can hear that. So and so do you use YouTube? Because I know a lot of people say they use YouTube, especially if they're looking for a particular accent or something like that. Have you tried YouTube as a resource?
I use a lot of different resources. For accents, yes, I'll go to YouTube. I live near Washington, D.C., and so I have the advantage of having a lot of embassies near me. So I've called embassies and talked to people at embassies to get a feel for their accent, or if I'm doing a nonfiction book and there's a word I can't pronounce, I've called the embassies up before. There's just a host of online resources that you can use. But I will say accents are tricky because unless you were born in a particular country, it's not always going to be spot on. And one of the acting coaches I had used to say, as long as you get a good flavor of that particular accent, you don't have to go and be exact. You need to be exact as you can, but the listener wants a flavor. So if I'm doing a Russian accent, it's not going to be like, people aren't going to say, wow, she's from Russia, but you'll get the flavor of it. You'll understand that it is a Russian accent. So.
Yeah, I spoke with someone else and they say that they are very similar. They get that information and then they add a little bit of them to that particular accent, and it works because they're not from Texas, and Texans have kind of that drawl. So as long as, to me, if it sounds good, I mean, I've never been to Russia, so I don't know. I don't know anybody that's Russian, so how would I know how it really sounds? I don't know. I'll take your word for it unless you're the person supposed to be Russian and they sound like, they're from Jamaica, then, that's not going to work.
No. And you have to know your limits. So, because accents are tricky. There are some narrators that are just spot on. They are perfect. And wow. they just got this dialect perfectly. But that's a practiced art, and I know my limit and I know my range.
It's always good to know our limits, right? It saves you money and time, and it saves the rights holder and the author's time. And it's just better to say, you know what, I'm not really comfortable with that, but maybe I could suggest somebody to you. Hey, check out this person. So,
Well, yeah, one of the earlier books that was offered to me was a detective novel, and I really, really liked it a lot. But one of the main characters was from Jamaica, coincidentally.
Speaking of, all right.
Yeah, and I, try as I might, I could not do a Jamaican accent. Even the flavor of it, it was just beyond where I was at the time.
Mm.
So I had to turn it down and said, I would love to do this book, but I just wouldn't do it justice because I cannot get this accent. And this accent is crucial to the book. So she had the accent.
Yeah. So have you ever been back down that road to the Caribbean?
Oh, I love the Caribbean. I love to Jamaica for a month and say, I'm here to learn the accent. You have to know your limits and just keep, learning. There are so many resources out there that you can go to try to learn this. And there are great coaches out there. I think PJ Oakland, he's the dialect master. So if I ever needed some training, I think I should probably give him a call.
You should, and I should probably reach out to him and have him on the show just so he can
Yes.
talk to. Yeah, I'm making notes as
Yeah.
I'm making notes. But okay, I want to know about some fun things that you've done with your books. So, have you ever had any scenes or been reading, parts of a book, and you just laugh? Like, do you ever get to points where you're reading something and it's just funny and you just have to start over, or maybe there's a tongue twister? Because I just did something and I just had to do 5 retakes because just certain words, when you say them together, it's like that last letter on that word going with the next word's first letter is so hard.
The double R's for me, yeah. It's definitely, and I think a lot of narrators probably have the same problem. It's you run into these words that you just, for whatever reason, you can't get out. And that's when punch and roll comes in handy. You keep punching them. Like, let's keep doing that, And so I try to write those down. I don't have them in bed. I try to write them down so that I can just practice them. And I remember the one word in the beginning that I had the problems with was like regularity.
Oh gosh.
All the layers. No, gasp. She gasped. Do you know how many people gasp in books? A lot. People are always gasping. Clasped and gasped. They're always doing that. So those are the words you have to learn first.
Because then it's like, do you over enunciate the P? It's like gasp, and then you don't want to over where it sounds like you're like, I don't know. And then, like you just said, regularity. Mine is regularly. It's like regularly.
Yeah, particularly.
Yes, anything with the larlies at the end.
Yeah, all very, very, and there are a lot of them. It's just practice, I think, because you run into them a lot, especially scenes in romance. I just did one, called His Bewildering Bride, and there was a lot of gasp, and clasped. But you're right with the P's, because you can pop them and you can keep that sound a little, so it's a little tricky. You kind of have to turn your head away from the mic a little bit.
Oh gosh, that's so funny. So the easy way for me to escape those things is just use a different word. Unfortunately for you, you can't. You have to go what's written. And so some of those words that gets me tongue tied. I just like, no, I'm just gonna break it down. Give 1 or 2 syllables. That's all I need. Let me stick with 1 and 2 syllable words and skip all those other ones with all those letters that just don't work well for me right now.
Would that I could. But I have done books where, in particular, I did a book where there was a really, really emotional scene, and it just really got me choked up. And I had to stop a few times when I was recording this book, because I was in tears.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one particular scene in the book is Brushstrokes in Time, where it was so sad. And I kept going, even though you could hear it in my voice. You know how when you're about to cry, your voice kind of get a little, yeah. So I had that a little bit. And I emailed my editor and I said, what do you think? I can redo this if it doesn't sound right or if it's too emotional. And he said, no, keep it in because it is in line with what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there have been books where I'm in tears.
Yeah, and I just added that to my list because I don't really like ugly cries. I don't really like to be sad, but I found that there are sometimes you just gotta have that. You gotta have it, and you gotta have that type of book, and there's some meaning, some deep meaning in there, and when somebody can bring that raw emotion, just like you did for that book. And I can feel how it affected you, then you know that the listener is probably affected double that because it's so real. It's like you didn't act that. You can't act that. You really felt those words in there, and this is it. This is without editing or anything. This is it, and I love those. I love those type of books. So I just added it to my list. So thank you for helping me grow my to be listened to list. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. You just have to be true to the text, and some of these authors out there just write so beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just beautifully.
So I'm going to add that. So, okay, so we know what you're currently working on. So what are you doing when you're not in the booth? I know you spend a lot of time in there, but outside, do you have a pull-out bed in there too? I mean, you don't sleep in there, right?
Yeah, my bedroom's just down the hall. What do I do? My son is, work lives in California, so he's out of the house. It's just me and my husband and our dog. So he's at work, I record, and he comes home, and we go out, have dinner with friends. I try to play tennis when I can. I don't do that as much because my schedule is so busy now. Mm-hmm. But whenever I'm not recording, honestly, I watch TV. I'm a TV junkie. I just want to sit, watch something that I don't have to think about because I'm so exhausted after I record a book, especially books that have a lot of emotion or nonfiction. Nonfictions just take it out of me. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm done, I just want downtime, and I'll watch Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, something in that genre that is exciting and is almost fantasy, because I just need to kind of chill out, not think about anything.
Yeah, and it's good that you have something that helps you refocus and kind of, balance and take your mind off of, work. And so many of us are such workaholics, like, we work every day. Do you have days that you don't work? Please tell me you have at least one day off that you're not in the booth.
I try to. I really do. But sometimes you get a book that's offered to you and it's really short notice and you don't have a lot of turnaround time. Mm-hmm. And for the 15-hour book that I'm doing now, it's got to be done next week. So I just have to barrel through it and get it done. And if that means I don't have a day off, well, I don't have a day off. But there are days off later on down the line where when I do a bookings, I try to leave maybe 3 days in between, sometimes 4. So that gives me a little bit of a break. But when you get something offered to you kind of like, spur of the moment, and you take it and you just got to build it in and work it through.
And are you recording more than one book at a time?
No, I don't like to do that. Some people do. I like to focus on one book at a time. Now, that doesn't mean that if I'm doing a book now and I get pickups, which usually means, the errors that I have from the previous book, I'll do that. But I will not narrate 2 books at the same time. I know some people do, but I can't seem to do that.
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. Different strokes for different folks. I've always wanted to say that.
Yeah.
So I just decided I would say that.
It's true because I have the characters in my head.
Mm-hmm.
right now. I can't go into that other book and start thinking about those characters because I'm so engrossed in what's going on now. I think it would just take away from my performance from each book. So I like to do just one book at a time.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. But we'll be patiently waiting um, for the book that we want in October, Break the Night.
Yeah.
I know that's what I'm waiting for. But so, how many books right now are in your library so far?
I don't have that many. I have about 33, 34 in my library, but I have a few that are in the can that are done
Okay.
that they'll be almost released at the same time. So it looks like I did 5 books in a month or something, but I didn't. It's just spread out. So it all depends on when they get done in the editing. So
Oh, good. Well, I'm excited to again add a couple of your books to my listening library. And we want to make sure that our listeners have an opportunity to be able to find you on social media. So if you want to shout out where we can stalk you and follow you in a professional manner, let us know where we can find you.
sure, I'm on Twitter at Voice of Caroline, and I'm on Facebook at Voice of Caroline. So I'm there. Those are the and LinkedIn under Caroline McLaughlin, I think. So those are
Okay.
the only media outlets that I have at the moment.
Okay. Now, are you on SoundCloud?
I don't think I am. I think I used to be, but I haven't used that in a long time. I
Okay.
probably should kind of revamp it a little bit.
Well, we'll work on that part later, but the main thing is that we can find Caroline at Facebook and Twitter, both at the Voice of Caroline. And also be sure that you go to Audible and check out her library and type in her name. It's Caroline, and the last name is spelled like McLaughlin.
Yeah,
Everybody, if you're like, it's McLaughlin in my head, but it's
yeah.
McLaughlin. And so just
Oh,
make sure you spell it correctly.
and I forgot I have a website under voiceofcaroline.com. I always forget about that one.
Okay,
So
so those are the 3 ways that you can find her. And I'm pretty sure on her website, if you just go voiceofcaroline.com, it'll have links to her Facebook and
yeah,
Twitter page because that's what nice
yeah,
people who have websites do and make it easy for you to just go to one stop shop and just click there and like and follow. Um,
yeah.
so so we're excited and very thankful that we were able to have Caroline here with us on week 9 of the Featured Voice. So excited about everything that has taken place up to this point. Caroline, thank you so much for being here with us. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Always,
Thank
always fun. Yes.
thank you for having me on. I so appreciate it. It
You're
was fun.
very you're very welcome. I'm glad it was fun. Everybody, please remember to follow us on Facebook at The Audio Flow, also on Instagram at The Audio Flow, and Twitter at the_audio_flow. Thank you again to our special guest, Caroline McLaughlin. Also, shout out to my producer, Danielle at Firefly Productions, and also to you listeners for taking an opportunity to learn and meet more narrators so that you can go out and grab some of their books. Also, all of our episodes are now on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and TuneIn. So you can find us everywhere. Everywhere. We're everywhere. Follow us. And if you are interested in being on season 2, 3, or 4 of the Featured Voice, be sure that you follow us or connect with us at admin, ADMIN, at theaudioflow.com. We'd love to have you. Until next time, everyone, have a
Thank
wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.